I should have gotten more dressed up for you guys, but to be honest, if I'm home, I am usually in an oversized Taylor Swift sweatshirt, so we're keeping it real today. Hey everybody. Oh, I have like little hands. I have little hands. I haven't had a consistent writing practice for about 5 years, but that changes today. Hey everyone, my name's Michaela, but you can call me Mick, and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to break down an idea that I've had in my head for what feels like a decade now, and I just need to get it out. And we're going to take it from premise to plot. A premise is the principal idea behind a body of work. So when I say premise, it's really just the idea for the book. And you might be like me, where I come up with a lot of ideas, but I always get stuck when I go from trying to turn that idea into a novel and start trying to do the outlining process. And I just feel like I can't start writing if I don't actually know where the book is going or what it's about. So I'm going to take this idea that I've had forever. I'm burning everything down that I did beforehand, and we're going to start over from scratch. And you're going to come along for the ride with me. The project that has been plaguing me for years is Project House of Stone. If you've followed me on any social media over the past 5 years, really, on Twitter or now X or Instagram, which I'm not a part of Twitter anymore.
Please don't make me go back over there.
People need to touch grass. And so it's a difficult place to be. But if you followed me on Twitter or Instagram, you might have seen me post about this because I've been trying to write this story for years. And I finally figured out what the issue was. I kept brainstorming the premise over and over and over again. I would just keep brainstorming more ideas on top of ideas on top of ideas until I had a ton of ideas in front of me and absolutely no plot. It was the definition of all vibes, no plot. And while sometimes I love a good vibes, no plot, we need a plot. And so that's what we're gonna do. So the first step is needing to find an idea. And I'm going to take you guys through my process of how I came up with this idea for House of Stone. How I brainstorm for a story is I actually am pulling from a long note that I usually have in my phone that lists all these things that I love from other books or media. Because how I best write is when I'm writing something that I absolutely love. I always try to follow that mantra of like, write the book you want to read. I very much adhere to that, even in the idea process. I usually take a couple of things from that list, and then the best way I have found for me to come up with an idea is to mash some of those together. So that's the process I'm going to take you through right now. For House of Stone, I actually took 5 different things from that what I love in other books or media list, and here they are. First one, and it's usually a theme in almost all of my books, is magic in a contemporary world. Sometimes this is called urban fantasy or contemporary fantasy, which is great because that means I already have the genre that I will be working in for this story. And it's one of my favorite genres to read as well as write. I just love it so much. Can't get enough of it. So I definitely wanted to pull that in for this project. Something else I love is complicated family dynamics. Really like big families, lots of drama, lots of tension. And for this particular story, because I knew going in, I wanted to write something a little darker. This was going to be adult. So I wanted there to be a more like sinister, evil something going on with this family. In terms of sinister and evil something going on, I also love criminal activity.
That's me! I love crime!
Yes, I hate to admit on the internet, but I love criminal activity. Like you go criminals, heist that painting, hack that computer. I love it. So I did want the family, for their sinister evil something going on, I guess I should just tie this in. I knew it was going to be some sort of criminal-esque activity. Think like mafia vibes is what I was going for here. Something else I pulled that I also write about pretty frequently is, underground rebellion movements or secret societies. And going along with secret societies, I love cults. Wow. Guys, I am outing myself on the internet right now. Yes, I love criminal activity and I love cults. I can't get enough. I watch so many cult documentaries, I read books on cults, etc. I am definitely a self-proclaimed person who would join a cult if if I had not married my husband, because he would stop me immediately.
How do you accidentally join a cult?
But I find cults and group dynamics in general very, very fascinating. I think that obviously what makes cults so successful is they prey off of people in a weak moment, or people who really will do anything to feel a sense of belonging. This is something I have been fascinated by for so long, and I wanted to really bring that out in my writing this time. So these are the 5/4, I guess, really, bullet points that I pulled from my master list, and this is what we have to go off of. My second part of my brainstorming is I usually try to mash all of these together into some sort of premise. And again, the premise is really that hook. It could be even your pitch, but it's really just the basic idea of the book. The premise of House of Stone is a woman finds out magic is real and joins a resistance group trying to take down a powerful family, down a local powerful family who is controlling the magic, until she finds out her group is something sinister on its own. This was my original premise that I worked with. How I got there was, first off, a woman finds out magic is real. Is that magic in a contemporary world genre, right? That's always going to usually be the start of some sort of urban fantasy or contemporary fantasy book. Think City of Bones, think Harry Potter. It's always answering the question, like, what if magic is real? What if demon hunters are real, right? So a woman finds out magic is real and joins a resistance group. So this is bringing in that underground rebellion movement or a secret society element that I want to write about, because that is who our main character is going to be joining. This group is trying to take down a local powerful family who's controlling the magic. So this goes into my bullet points of, I want to write a complicated family, a big family with lots of drama, lots of tension, but they also have some sort of criminal-esque activity going on. And since it was mafia vibes, I want them to have control of the magic. I don't know what that means yet. I'm not writing on a magic system yet. I just know that that is an element at play. Until she finds out her group is something sinister on its own. I loved this idea because this really goes into the cults that I want to explore, right? So what would you or anyone do to feel a sense of belonging, to feel like they are part of something bigger than themselves? After taking all my lovely brainstorming and we have it in a premise, this is where I usually start to make a Pinterest board, and this is the rabbit hole that I can get stuck on for, I don't know, 5 years. I instantly come to Pinterest to flesh out all of my ideas. I think this is a pretty common thing in the writer world. Don't know what would give me that idea, but It seems like a lot of us just love Pinterest. And yes, pinning photos on your work in progress Pinterest board is writing. I completely think it's a part of the writing process. In the beginning, I was searching a lot of just like magic aesthetic. I knew that I wanted a darker feel for this adult fiction book. So I was even doing things like dark academia aesthetic. These are the first couple of images that I started pinning when thinking about House of Stone. It's a lot of green I'm looking at right now, right? And dark academia definitely, I think, flows through here. Like all of these images scream dark academia to me, and I just kept pinning them. What's nice about Pinterest is you can start to train your algorithm. So when I'm in the process of pinning for a new book idea, my homepage on Pinterest becomes that book idea, right? So now I'm just pinning anything that comes to mind. As I'm going through Pinterest, I'm starting to pick out things that I like about these photos and thinking of more ideas for the book. So it's another way to brainstorm ideas. So one thing that kept popping up when I was looking at Pinterest were these statues. You can see a ton of pins around statues. So I wrote that down. I also see a lot of things like mirrors. There's also like a grounds or like a campus of some sort. You know, that's very dark academia, but I really liked these settings. So I started to write that down. And if you scroll up, there's also a lot of like girls, honestly, in lake. And I liked that imagery as well. So I'm really just starting to write out imagery that I really love. Like I love this clay teapot with spider legs. I'm obsessed with that. Like that's really cool. Snakes was a big theme. We have fancy mansions, very like rich aesthetic, right? There's a lot of overgrowth. Eyes in picture frames. I like to just like make a little cup of tea, throw on some atmospheric music, and just look over this. Like, what are the images trying to tell me? What did I subconsciously do? Man falling in some of these. Oh, one more. Tattoos. Through all of my Pinterest board, these are kind of the main things that I'm pulling, the main vibes. I pinned a lot of statues, mirrors, this like grounds or campus like place. This is more of a, setting, a lake, but a lot of like girls in the lake. This clay teapot with spider legs that I really liked. Snakes, fancy mansions, a rich person's aesthetic, overgrowth, eyes in picture frames, a man falling, and tattoos. That sounds like absolute chaos, but I just want to show you how I got some of my story elements from just pinning random photos that spoke to me. I really let the photos tell me what I should write about. Like my brain is subconsciously putting these together. What am I trying to tell myself? I started to connect statues, mirrors, snakes, and eyes. These all felt like they belonged in the same group, right? Grounds, campus, lake felt like they belonged in the same group. A clay teapot with spider legs is kind of on its own. It's just like an object that I really like. I like the fancy mansions and rich. Actually, we're gonna move overgrowth to this grounds campus setting, a man falling, tattoos. So these are all kind of separate now. But when I'm thinking of statues, mirrors, snakes, and eyes, as I don't need all of these things, maybe you can see where I'm going with this, but the main thing that I'm thinking of is Medusa. I know. You're probably like, Michaela, how are we gonna add in Medusa to your story idea? Bear with me here, because this is a journey, and this is gonna look different for everyone. Like, this is how my brain works. I want you to try this and see how your brain is gonna work in a scenario like this, right? Like, what comes to mind for you? After I did this kind of mini power brainstorming session with Medusa, I came to the conclusion that I wanted to write a character who was going to be the head of the underground rebellion group, okay, who was cursed or afflicted with this Medusa-like trait. Anyone she looked at would turn to stone. This is important because what this adds actually to my book is that means her followers don't interact with her much. Okay, right? So now I am really promoting this character to a cult-like leader. I love the eyes in the picture frame pin. I think it's so interesting, and I wanted to add that somewhere in the book. And what I actually came up with is, since this is going to be our head of the underground rebellion, her followers can't interact with her much, how would she talk to her people, right? Like, if they can't interact with her much, how is she recruiting people? How is she talking to people who are not with her? I want there to be some sort of way to communicate via magic with like eyes around the city. And then going off of that, we have this grounds or campus setting, you know, lake, the girls floating in the lake, and a lot of overgrowth. And I decided that this was going to be the underground rebellion setting. So it's going to be some sort of old stone house that has a campus feel, or maybe they call it that. And it's also going to be surrounded by a lake. The fancy mansion's rich. This is definitely going to be our local powerful family. Okay. And then man falling and tattoos. Clay teapot with spider legs. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with this kind of stuff yet, but I know that this all really played into the magic system. So as you can see, like, I came up with a ton of really interesting things, I think, about my story purely from pinning a ton of things on Pinterest and then going through again and letting the photos speak to me. The next step would usually be to flesh out our characters, but I could do an entire video on that, of how to build realistic characters and why the character struggles are so important. So if you do want to hear about that or watch me walk through that, let me know and I will create that, but that can be for another time. So in order to take this half-baked idea of cool imagery and cool world building stuff and cool character ideas, we now need to actually put it into a plot. I really think that where I've gotten stuck in the past is I would do everything we just did, really flesh out those characters, think of some cool world building, maybe even come up with a magic system, and then just go right into writing or outlining. And I would always get stuck. And that's because I didn't take the time to actually turn this idea into a plot yet. A plot means that you have conflict. A premise is nice. You know, what if magic was real in the real world? What if, you know, my main character joins this resistance group and they try to take down this powerful family? The plot is what happens, and what happens is the conflict and the stakes that are created. So that's what we're going to go through right now, is adding conflict and stakes. As you can see, I already fleshed out a lot of like my characters, and I have already kind of brainstormed my own magic system. Like I said, I can do separate videos on both of those. The method that I've found that works best for me is coming up with the beginning, the middle, and the end first. And then I can start to add conflict in between. Kind of like a fast drafting outline, right? So in the beginning, I already know that we want to make sure, Helen, that's my main character, over there on the left. So she's the one who is finding out that magic is real. That is a major conflict. The issue that I have with this is that there isn't enough stakes, right? This is an adult fiction book. These people are in their late 20s, early 30s. Yes, figuring out magic is real for the first time would be jarring, and it definitely raises the stakes in some capacity. I want to take it a step further. Like, what would up the stakes for Helen? I keep thinking back to other books in this genre. So for me, I actually just reread the City of Bones books. That was a trip. And I reread them to really study their story structure because I'm writing something similar. And the stakes there for the main character, when she's finding out that this magical world is real, is that one, her mom is taken, and two, her best friend Simon isn't able to see things the way that she can. So now there's a disconnect from her two biggest people in her life, right? Her mom is missing, gone, taken, possibly dead. Her best friend isn't getting pulled into the world with her. Those are some higher stakes now of what is she gonna do with this information. For me, a way to raise this stake of Helen's gonna find out that magic is real is that I want Helen's best friend Zoya to already be in this world. In the world of magic. So we have Zoya down here, and she is best friends with Helen. And when we start the book, a way to really make the stakes high is that Zoya is missing and Helen is freaking out. That is kind of where we're opening the book. After that, she's going to, find out that magic is real and find out that Zoya is already connected to this underground world of magic that Zoya brings her into. At the end of Helen's story, I already know that I want Helen to have a moment of, oh my gosh, what will she do? And I want Helen to choose incorrectly. I'm not a big fan of happy endings. I mean, I love happy endings, but when I write, I don't really write the happiest of endings. And so I already know that I want Helen, after a big decision of, oh my gosh, what will she do? And her big decision is going to be based off of, until she finds out her group is something sinister of its own. So really the big question is will she leave House of Stone knowing its sinister secrets? That's going to be the big question. I want Helen to choose incorrectly. I want her to stay with House of Stone. Zoya will end up leaving House of Stone, after finding out everything. And that creates conflict, right? It's going to create conflict between Helen and Zoya. As secrets are being revealed, how are these two characters acting? They're really strong friends. And now they're testing their friendship in an entirely new environment with entirely new rules. How will both of these people act? And they find out that they're going to act very differently. And the stakes are raised for Helen by the end. The stakes are that Helen is really wanting to be a part of this group. Okay, her best friend's in it. She's now found a home in this group. And even though she's found out its sinister secrets, is she going to stay? Who is she going to choose? Zoya and going back to a world without magic, or staying in this world? She's gonna stay. That's going to be the incorrect choice, but that's where I want her to end. Now, the dreaded middle, of course, the worst part. What are some conflicts and stakes that I can create in the middle? The middle is really going to be this war between these two factions of House of Stone and the Novak family. So we definitely want to make sure that there's conflict between those sides, but that's not enough. Like, obviously, yes, I came up with that in my premise, right? She joins this resistance group and they're trying to take down this powerful family that controls the flow of magic. But why? Why is obviously like they want power and magic, whatever that is that the Novak family is controlling and hoarding for themselves. That's obviously a possible motive. To raise the stakes and honestly even create more conflict is I want the Medusa character to have a personal vendetta against the Novak matriarch. That raises the stakes. And the House of Stone members do not know this in the beginning. So it's going to be one of the secrets that is revealed. That really their attack on this family that they think is for a bigger, more righteous cause all boils down to someone's revenge on someone for doing something against them. Another conflict that we can raise is, so I have two main characters listed, Helen, and then I just have Achilles right now as his placeholder name. That will absolutely not be his name, I promise. I just cannot think of a name for the life of me. But I want a love story to happen between Helen and Achilles. Now, this obviously adds conflict because Helen is a part of House of Stone and Achilles is a part of the Novak family. How very Romeo and Juliet, right? But to raise the stakes, you see how that's kind of like the pattern I'm taking? Like, okay, create conflict and then up it a little, like raise the stakes a little bit higher, is that I want to have Helen working both sides, House of Stone and the Novak family. There's so many different ways that I can do this, but I know that to raise the stakes, create more internal conflict with Helen, create more tension between her and her potential romance with Achilles and her potential friendship with Zoya, and how everything is going to end up, where all these characters end up emotionally at the end. I know that she needs to work both sides with House of Stone and the Novak family. So now this feels more like a plot. This isn't an outline. This isn't, some crazy big plotting technique. It's really just the basics of, okay, I have this cool raw idea, but now I'm actually giving it a beginning, middle, and end. And that's somewhere. Okay, wow, we did it. I haven't felt this excited about writing in so long. I've had this idea rattling around forever. It has changed genres, characters, settings, what have you, but I feel so good about this plot. Now I can actually start to outline it or write a pitch and move forward into the zero draft. If you like this video, let me know down below and let me know, how do you come up with your ideas? I'd love to hear all the ways that you guys find inspiration, and then how do you take that crazy jumble of ideas and turn it into a plot like we just did today? Thanks for watching episode 1 of my Let's Write a Book series, and I can't wait to see you for episode 2.